Welcome to Whatever We Want with J and K. She is K, Kalala Elliott.
He is J. Jamal Sterling.
She is glowing today, ladies and gentlemen. You got to see on YouTube, got the whole the dreads going, the gleaming. I see you, girl.
This my Easter Sunday glow up, my pretend I'm not a heathen today.
As we record during church times, missing church services.
And for those who may be watching, they're probably trying to. You and I just realized it's like people can see everything that I'm staring at on my screen, so I'm gonna try to keep my glasses down because I can't see without them these days.
Put away all
bad.
The cool.
You know, your wife has been harassing us both because we both need to get our eyes tested.
Oh yeah,
apparently.
I think I'm legally blind at this point, so it's not.
Oh,
but I'm
God,
like, no,
is it really that bad?
Well, I squinted a lot of things now, and I'm one of those dudes who is very arrogant because I've been 20/20 all my life, and now I'm at the point now I'm just like, what does that say? Oh, that's a green light. Okay, that's insane.
I keep telling people I've turned into Fred Sanford. Like I used to buy these cute little reading glasses, and I was like, oh, I'll just have them. You know, they'll just make me look more distinguished and more mature. And I had a different pair of reading glasses for every outfit, and now it's not even aesthetics anymore. I legit can't see. I'm like, so I have to have glasses now. So I'm not trying. I've scheduled an appointment to see someone this week because it's gotten pretty bad. It's gotten pretty bad.
You just made me think of something. I just realized that my life's goal is to become Fred Sanford. Like that is my aura. That is my spirit animal.
Did I mention Fred? Look, this is how terrible I am. Now I forgot. Did I mention Fred Sanford? Because he is definitely my role model when it comes to reading glasses. I've got a drawer just like him. It's like open it up. What kind of glasses you need? What color you need?
Right. If you haven't seen Sanford and Son, that's shit you need to know. Please watch you some Sanford and Son.
Yes,
it's the greatest shit.
Go get your life. redfoxesthebomb.com.
So let's get
let's get right into it. We got a lot going on.
We got a brunch today. We going to an Easter brunch, even though we didn't go to church. So
the Lord knows our heart. He knows what we are every Sunday.
He's like, he knows we heathens. No, but so what we got? You want me to go first? You going first?
Yo, I know you got some stuff, and I bet we got some of the same stuff. So let's hit the right out the gate. It's happy arraignment week, right? This was this week.
The week that everyone's been waiting for, Trump arraignment week. We talked about it a little bit last week, but we're talking about it more this week. Because Trump has gone all apeshit this week as far as fighting back on Truth Social. First of all, what is a Truth Social? I know it's his website. Is it weird now that everybody goes to, you don't even know what Truth Social is, right?
See, look, you see my face. I'm sitting here like, what are you talking about?
Truth Social is the Trump Twitter. Like he invented a new website for him to do his thing.
I thought he was buying. Did he not buy Parler? Wasn't that his plan?
Well, I think that I don't know if Parler became Truth Social or whatever. But anyway, you have to play this game of instead of like going to Twitter like the regular idiots who are on Twitter, you have to go to his little play website and get all his stuff on there. And I think it's just him and a bunch of crazy ass people who like him. But basically, he just went off this week, talking about the DA, talking about the DA's wife, talking about the DA's child. He got pulled.
It wasn't just the DA; it was the judge, right? It was the judge and his
the judge,
like showing the man's picture.
It is just full out, and he was really hoping this week at the indictment. He was really, 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 really hoping that a bunch of Trump supporters would come down there and tear shit up. But you're in Manhattan, ladies and gentlemen, and there's way more Democrats than Republicans. So
that's not how we get down in New York. Just so y'all clear.
Marjorie Taylor Greene,
New Yorker.
Marjorie Taylor Greene brought her ass out there and immediately was shouted down and had to run away. Who else was out there? There was I think Matt Gaetz was out there for a second. It didn't go well for him. But Trump is in full circus mode, and it's kind of concerning because it's all the free pub that he always brings, which is, we talk shit about Trump. His one genius is making a fucking shitstorm and everybody looking at that shitstorm. Your thoughts?
You know what I actually prefer to talk about? Because we're gonna be talking about this for forever, right? Like this is not going anywhere, right?
Yes. But it's never gonna end until he dies. And when he dies, it won't end.
But as it relates to Trump and his arraignment this week, I want to take a different approach, right? I want to take a different angle. And the angle I think I want to take is the obvious one, which is the tale of two justice systems, right? I don't have to break down the obvious difference in how he is treated compared to any other person facing the American criminal justice system, which is, first of all, having to do a perp walk in front of the media and everybody else being handcuffed. I don't know if he was fingerprinted, but he certainly did not have. He was not booked and have a mugshot.
Fingerprinted in private, was not given a mugshot.
Right. Even him being detained. The room where he was detained, a special room, was not handcuffed at any point in time during all of this. So we could go on and on and on. You all know the differences, but I actually want to turn attention a little bit, because this week on the Read Out on with Joyanne Reed, she actually had Dr. Yusef Salaam on this week, and Dr. Yusef Salaam, for the benefit of all, is one of the five, the exonerated five now, as we refer to them, formerly known as the Central Park Five. And he was actually on there. What's interesting is he's running for the famed District 9 in New York City. He's running for a city council seat there. Harlem, what up, Harlem? Stand up, Harlem.
Let's go.
So he is he's thrown his hat in the race. But here's what's interesting. So Joyanne had him on to obviously talk about Trump's trial, and to talk about, of course, the difference in how the treatment he has received throughout the course of this indictment, this arraignment. And then specifically, she highlighted, if you recall, during that trial, or the lead up to that trial, Donald Trump famously took out a full-page New York Times ad that called for those five young men to face the death penalty without, he decided he was judge and jury right there on the cover of the New York Times.
Before anybody went to trial, before the facts were known.
So here's how life is interesting and ironic. So Joyanne had him on, and of course they were talking about the arraignment, but interestingly enough, he was given airtime to talk about his platform, and more specifically, the fact that he has now created a campaign ad that looks exactly like the ad that Donald Trump took out when he was calling for those young men to be to face the death penalty. And instead, of course, he's talking about how to rebuild Harlem, how to continue, his platform. It's just very interesting. And we'll put the link in the show notes for everybody, but I was just so impressed with his poise, his ability to find hope, coming out of such tragic circumstances. But then also, you and I love a good ironic sense of humor, right? This idea of let's lean into this idea, like let's flip the script a little bit. So I found that to be an interesting article, or an interesting perspective in the Donald Trump saga this week that not many folks are talking about.
Well, I think the thing that went kind of viral this week is when they Yusef Salaam released a tweet after the indictment happened, and all it just said was karma. Word. Chickens are coming home to roost a little bit. Word. But as we said last week, he ain't going to jail, y'all.
Oh yeah,
he ain't going to jail. He ain't going.
And
to
even
jail.
if he does go to jail, there was a lot of commentary talking about the only other president who's gotten close to a similar circumstances, of course, Richard Nixon, who was brought up on some charges, but he was pardoned by President Gerald Ford, right?
Right.
I don't think Biden would be pardoning anybody should it come to that. But as you said, I don't have a lot of faith in our justice system too.
Man, there's no way. That's what when people wonder, why are you so angry and mad? Because, as you just point out, these two different justice systems. And if I can transition, we could talk about another system that is totally flawed. You've heard about everything's going on in Tennessee right now.
Yes, look, when we started to talk about it the other day, I wasn't informed, but I'm now informed. But please share for the benefit of our audience who may not know.
So this week in Tennessee, the world of politics experienced a collective shock this week as Tennessee Republicans expelled two young Black Democratic House members for protesting gun laws on the chamber floor after a deadly school shooting in Nashville. So there's once again, that's behind on a rock, and you probably can't remember. There's another school shooting that happened in Nashville earlier this month. They've been trying desperately to bring up legislation on the floor, and the process in the Tennessee legislation is they won't even bring it up for debate. They won't even let it come to the floor, which is against House procedures. But as we're learning this week, Tennessee House has not been going by procedures for a mighty long time under the Republicans. So these young Democratic brothers and one white lady who's also amazing, they said, all right, the protesters came, they protested on the floor because they just wanted them to follow House procedures. And then they procedurally kicked them out of the Tennessee legislature.
Expelled.
Expelled them. Now, they expelled so three people, two Black men, one white woman, all protesting. Two Black men get expelled. The white woman not expelled. And the white woman said
and literally,
quite plainly.
Right. And they
said it
voted
quite
on
plainly.
this, so everybody's clear. They
Yeah,
voted on this.
So they asked her, hey, why do you think you didn't get expelled? And she said, I think it's the color of my skin, which it quite obviously was. Your thoughts?
I mean, what is there to say? Well, I guess one thing I will say is, first off, good on them.
Yes.
Good on them. You know, we must be willing to stand up and use our voices even in spaces where it feels like there's no point, right? Because I'm sure to some extent that for them it may feel like there's no point, but that's also the point of the protest, right? Which is, you haven't even given us the opportunity to address this crisis. You have cut off, even the whole point of democracy is for us to have a dialogue. Like, democracy is founded on this concept of we can have opposing opinions, right? Like,
right.
And so to prevent them from even sharing their frustrations and their concerns right at the bat is un-American. If we're to believe what we've been taught is American, right? And what is democratic, what is our democratic culture. So there's that one thing. But what I've been curious to hear this past week from all of the talking heads is the fact that, in spite of what they think they've done, I think Republicans have actually overplayed their hand here, because they have created rock stars out of these three people. I have never, who knows about lower level, junior level, brand new council folks from Tennessee, right? Nobody knows. But now everybody knows these folks. They know these three. They basically become superstars in their party.
They were national news. If you're watching the news on Wednesday, literally they were leading on every single channel.
And continue to, and they were talked about on the roundtables this morning. On this, we're recording on Sunday, April the 9th. So interestingly enough, what I hear Democratic strategists saying, and it's always a lot of ideas until it comes time for elections, and then nobody can seem to pull a plan together. But one of the things that I do consistently hear folks saying is, Republicans have essentially backed themselves into this corner by taking these extreme positions on things, including abortion and gun control. And that's not where most of America is. Most of America does not agree with Republican lawmakers who are enacting these laws. So
it's being proven over and over again.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, but case in point. So, this past week in Wisconsin, we saw some Democrats take back control of some seats there. I think there was one,
the Supreme Court.
Thank you.
Yeah, the Supreme Court justice got voted back in. So
yeah,
if you don't know what's going on in Wisconsin, it is quite insane.
Yeah,
how the Republican Party has gerrymandered the whole state into being basically there is no Democratic rule.
And in
Republican
spite of
Party,
that,
it's all it is, right?
But in spite of that, the citizens still elected, an official to the Supreme Court who was saying these bans on abortions are unconstitutional. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh yeah, no, I froze up for a second. But in spite of that, they're still able to vote in this lady from the Democratic Party to break the Republican hold on the Supreme Court, which will hopefully bring back some rights to the people of Tennessee. And not saying that Democrat means rights, it means that the system is supposed to be balanced.
Right.
And right now there is no balanced system. It is a gerrymandered system on purpose.
Well, and I'll go a step further. Like they continue to feel like, because they brought this issue of abortion access to the states, that they have done this in a legitimate democratic way, and they haven't. Because to your point, they keep moving the goalposts, they keep changing the rules, but the people continue to speak what they want with the power of their vote. And this particular candidate who ran on a platform of, I will ensure that we will strike down these abortion bans. So Republicans better get themselves together if they plan to move forward with the American population behind them. I before we move on from the two justice systems, I have another story I want to bring up for you. But I want to make sure you didn't have anything else on that before.
I'm good.
So we were talking about the two justice systems. I want to know. Let me just say this. I'm watching a clip. I don't really watch full news programs as much anymore, because quite honestly, it annoys me a lot. So I watch a lot of stuff in clips. Right. And I came across a clip from an episode of Good Morning America this week. And it was reported on by Deborah Roberts. Shout out to Deborah Roberts. The sister's been holding it down for a minute now. But I did find it curious, because it was Deborah Roberts, and I apologize, I don't know the name of the other reporter who was also reporting on the story, but another Black woman. And so I found this dynamic very interesting. The headline for the story was GMA reported that a quote grandmother is accused of importing fentanyl and other drugs. So that's the headline, right?
Damn.
Yeah. So from 2000, so here's the backstory. From 2021 to 2022, there have been over 100,000 overdoses or deaths related to fentanyl and similar drugs. You know, we've talked about this on our show quite a bit. We've lost a few people, including, you know, Michael K. Williams, an actor who we loved tremendously from fentanyl overdoses, right? A lot of drugs like heroin and what have you, they're laced. We found that they're laced these days with fentanyl, and that is they're causing people to overdose and or die. Right. At any rate, so the headline for this story is that a grandmother is accused of importing fentanyl and other drugs. So the story goes on to tell about this 64-year-old white grandmother, but what seems to be the subheader, not quite the header, is that this woman is a 64-year-old police union executive director who received 61 shipments of controlled substances in her mail from countries including Hungary, Hong Kong, India, etc., from the years of 2015 to 2023.
Damn.
She is accused of using her work and her personal computer to order drugs and agreeing to distribute them around the country. Sir,
for 6 years?
Yep. No, but here, can I just say before you respond, but the headline was not police union chief executive,
white grandmother, director. Sweet lady. And then, ladies and gentlemen, we have the problem with the way back in what was the name of the movie? The movie with Michael Moore. I think it's
Bowling for Columbine.
Yes, Bowling for Columbine, where they're talking about they're talking about police, how things reported in the news, and one of the executives was talking about the show Cops. And then Michael Moore's like, why don't we ever show when executives get in trouble? Why don't we put them in a perp walk? He's like, well, they're not Black, and you can't take off their shirt and have them running around crazy or something. But this is exactly it. This is how the press go ahead and paints a story for you. So that headline is very like, oh, that's a bland headline. Then you dig into it and it's like, what?
And we'll include a link to the show notes because you all got to see the video. Literally, the first half of the video is them interviewing her, showing her neighborhood, and people saying, well, if you'd asked us, I think the woman's name is, I don't want to misspeak and say incorrectly state her name, but let's say her name was Joy. Her neighbor's like, well, we're asking, and Joy would be the last person we're like, right. Meanwhile, this woman has been a drug cartel, running a drug cartel through this neighborhood for 8 years.
But I want to talk about how she's able to just get it through the mail.
The mail.
Where that happened at? How you?
So here's the thing. So Homeland Security is finally what got involved and started investigating. But here's the irony: how bold and completely sure of who you are in the grand scheme of the American tapestry must you be to be bold enough to have fentanyl and other dangerous drugs delivered to your mailbox?
Ain't no standard drug dealer of color like, yo, you gonna get 20-25 years getting through the mail.
Like, you gotta be kidding.
Yo, mail me this heroin, dog. Just mail me a little.
Yo, so I saw that story and I was like, are we serious right now?
Hey,
that's
mail it,
really happening.
could you mail it priority and put insurance on it? Make sure we can track it. Make sure it can be tracked. It's cool.
So this is the last thing. So she apparently, when she was ordering these things, she was saying they were wedding party favors and gifts and what have you, which feels like a perfect segue to talk about gifts that public officials receive.
My favorite topic, ladies and gentlemen. Y'all, ladies and gentlemen,
we need a new segment. We need a new segment that's called "What the hell has Clarence Thomas done now?"
So I've been in a rabbit hole of Clarence Thomas for a while now. I'm actually writing something that has a lot to do with Clarence Thomas now.
You writing a book about Clarence Thomas?
I'm writing a play, and it's not about Clarence Thomas, but it's about Clarence Thomas.
So
let me go ahead and read. Clarence Thomas broke the law and isn't even close. This is from ProPublica. ProPublica scrupulously reported a new piece on Justice Thomas's decades-long luxury travel on the dime of a single GOP mega donor will probably not shock you at all. Sure, the dollar amounts spent are astronomical, and of course, the justice failed to report any of it. And of course, the mega donor insists that he and Thomas are dear old friends. So of course, the super yacht and the flights on the Bombardier Global 5000 jet and the results are all perfectly benign. So while the details are shocking, the pattern here is hardly a new one. This is a long-standing ethics loophole that's been exploited by parties with political interests in cases before the court to curry favor in exchange for astonishing junkets and perks. It is allowed to happen. So that's basically a long way of saying he ain't going to go to jail for this. He's not going to go to jail for this. He's not going to be taken away from Supreme Court for it. But quite honestly, he is being bribed in full public view.
And for over 2 decades.
And the defense he's using is, oh, they told me I could do that.
Yeah, he literally said, oh, when I first started, I asked some of my colleagues and they said, as long as it's personal. So he decided that since these people are friends of his, that anything that they give him. So I can't remember which MSNBC program that they were like, even in the most liberal terms of hospitality, there are instances, for example, and so ProPublica broke the story earlier this week. But of course, there have been subsequent follow-up articles, and The Guardian specifically noted that Thomas failed to disclose, all of these gifts, this travel on yachts, but he literally, quote, according to the Guardian, has enjoyed holidays at Crow's, because Harlan Crow, I think, is the billionaire Republican donor. I just want to say for a minute we highlight him.
Can we just say for a minute, Harlan Crow sounds like a cartoon villain.
It really does. Like I can literally see Bugs Bunny like dealing with
Harlan Crow, old man Harlan. But I'm sorry.
He reminds me of Yosemite Sam for some reason. So according to The Guardian, Thomas has enjoyed holidays at Crow's Ranch in Texas. He's based here in Dallas.
Oh, he's based here in Dallas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He has also, he being Thomas and his wife have joined him at an exclusive joined him at an exclusive all-male California retreat. The justice usually spends about a week each summer at Crow's private residence resort in the Adirondack Mountains in New York. But here's the other thing. One trip for the last 20 years that Justice Thomas and his wife Jenny, of January 6th
of January 6th.
Yeah.
She said January 6th, everybody. And nobody talks about that either anymore.
Yeah. So they took a 9-day trip to Indonesia on Crow's private jet, and then later island hopped on his yacht. That one trip in 2015 cost more than $500,000. So when our tax dollars at work, ladies and gentlemen,
so when Justice Thomas makes certain decisions on the court, I wonder how well Harlan Crow does on these decisions that he makes. I wonder how well he does as he sits on a super yacht or these famous resorts. Man, fuck this dude. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I was like, if buy me a drink or buy me off was a person. I mean, we know that this happens. We know that this is the worst kept secret that politicians, a lot of people are in their pockets. We know that. But the whole point of the Supreme Court is that you were supposed to be above reproach.
Yeah.
Theoretically.
And he's, I mean, it's been shot in the foot the minute that it went full conservative. Because I think Justice was the Chief Justice, who I think of, Justice Roberts. Mm-hmm. Even though I don't agree with any of his politics, I do think that he tries to be he realizes the position that he has and that he has to try for an even-handedness. And then the other side of the court, the right side of the court has given all that shit up. They're like, no, we don't even. Yeah. So Roberts looks like a liberal on this court.
That's what I was going to say. Can you imagine back when Roberts was undergoing his vetting process?
Right.
Can you imagine that there would come a day when we were like, well, thank God we got Roberts.
Thank God Justice Roberts is there.
Like, literally.
And I mean, don't get me wrong, Justice Roberts sucks. But he does not.
That's my point.
But he's right.
Like, as terrible as he is, he's the lesser of so many other evils on the court.
Oh my God. So yeah.
Oh my gosh.
But once again, this is another one of those scandals that like nothing's going to happen. Nothing's going to come of it. If nothing came of the Jenny Thomas stuff with her and all the access that she gained through Judge Thomas to make all these things happen on January 6th. Nothing's gonna happen.
No.
Yay.
I do want to, speaking of though, there are consequences to people's actions, and I got a great story about one.
Oh, let's go.
So this week a 21-year-old YouTuber found out what it is to part, get ready to bleep this, Lee. They found out what it is to fuck around and find out this week. I'm so excited about this story. I know you are a fan of pranks. I am not. And so I love this. I'm curious to know what your thoughts are. 21-year-old Tanner Cook. Wouldn't you imagine that a prankster would be named, a YouTuber would be named Tanner Cook?
I cannot stand it. I just want to point out, if your name is Tanner, stop listening to our podcast.
Oh, yeah, you might.
We don't sit.
We're not here for you. But a 21-year-old Tanner Cook, according to Insider.com, was shot by a person he was attempting to play a prank on in a Virginia mall. Cook, whose stomach and liver were pierced by a bullet, and who had to have his gallbladder removed, according to BusinessInsider.com, was in intensive care as of this week and says he will continue to make prank videos after he recovers. Hold on. So according to the detective on the case, the prank involved him, Cook, using, I guess, Google Translate and asking the person who shot him some questions with his phone in the guy's face. The guy apparently did not appreciate that, and whatever happened. Wait. But this isn't the first time he's done other prank videos. He's jumped behind the counter at fast food spots. He has trailed strangers in stores. He's pretended to vomit on Uber drivers. And according to the article, his victims have become more aggressive in response. And at some point, and at various points, have called the police. So I am curious to know your thoughts, because I know you love a good prank. You know I can't stand them.
Dear Tanner, my only request is that first, the video of you getting shot needs to be released. Because I love it. I'm sorry. I don't want the brother to die. But fuck around and find out is exactly what it is. You want to play? Hey, I was like, yo, play any prank you want. Just be ready for the consequences. Because certain places don't accept things. Like, I remember they had a video of somebody doing a prank at a Popeye's chicken. They jumped behind the counter, and then the Popeye's chicken employees immediately proceed to beat his ass behind the counter.
Because you don't know people. You don't know people, and you don't know what my thing about pranks is, particularly like when you're talking about pranks with strangers, you don't know what is going on in the hearts and minds of people.
You have no idea.
And I don't even mean like them being angry, violent people. What if someone in their family just died? Right. And you're running around with jokes. You know what I'm saying? Like, so you know how I am, even with friends. I'm like, I don't like pranks. I just don't like them. It's not my idea of comedy. It's not my ideal of fun. So I understand the rules of engagement.
I like good-natured pranks. Good-natured pranks. Not no pranks like, you about to lose your life or...
Good-natured pranks, you do them with people. Y'all have an agreed...
Right.
Y'all have a unspoken agreement that we know what our lines are. When you and I try to do pranks, I was like, oh no, Jamal go hard in the paint, then I'm not willing to take a chance that he's going to retaliate against me. So let me... fall back, because I understand that your prank game is strong.
I remember back in the day when Punk'd used to come on. I used to hate Punk'd in the sense that I always rooted for the person getting pranked to whip Ashton Kutcher's ass.
Right.
I remember there was one episode where The Rock was getting pranked, where they blew up a trailer and they're blaming The Rock for leaving the gas, and then The Rock snapped. And it was clear that if they went on for like 5 more minutes, The Rock was about to murder everyone. And they're like, it's cool, we started.
Like they stopped recording right before the ass whooping.
Right before The Rock was like, yo, fuck the showbiz shit.
Oh yeah. So Tanner, you might want to chill out, homeboy. I know you're trying to be famous. I was like, I'm not even going to shout out his YouTube channel because it's just idiotic.
His name's Tanner. That's what he gets.
Yeah, exactly.
All right,
what else you got on your plate?
Well, I just want your opinion on this, because Don Lemon has been accused of misogyny for years. Will Variety's cringe report be the final straw? So Variety made a huge report this week about one Don Lemon, who is problematic for the longest. Don Lemon's annoying. Can I just say that? I just want to say that in general. I find Don Lemon annoying in general. I always have, even when he was liberal darling. I was like, I don't like Don Lemon. Anyway. In a scathing new report published April 5th by Variety, CNN host Don Lemon faces disturbing accusations regarding how he has treated women, his colleagues. Lemon came under fire in February when he said that Republican presidential candidate Nikki Haley wasn't in her prime. What does that mean? After she announced a bid for the White House. However, Variety insisted that his sexist tendencies go back at least more than a decade. They talked to people like Soledad O'Brien, who basically called him an ass. Everyone, it seems like about a good 10 women in the CNN who worked with him been like, yeah, Don Lemon's kind of a douche, been a douche for years. But if anybody who watches Don Lemon, it's not hard to get the douchey vibe that's been there forever. I view this as chicken coming home to roost. What are your thoughts on what are your feelings on Don Lemon? Do you have any strong feelings about Don Lemon?
I don't have strong feelings about Don Lemon because I think I take Don Lemon in small doses. Yeah. What's interesting is I know a lot of people who know him like personally. And I think because of that, and I'm not gonna lie, this happens a lot when you work in the business and the industry where you, out of politeness, where you don't want to offend people, you choose to not have an opinion. So he's one of those people I think I chose a long time ago to not really have an opinion on, just because I didn't want to be in awkward conversations where someone's like, oh yeah, he's a friend of mine who lives upstairs, and I didn't want to be in this circumstance.
I'm going to have so many awkward discussions at some point. Don Lemon's going to find me, and
you're going to have a ton of awkward conversations.
And I got one about that later, but go ahead.
That being said, here's what I will say, and I'm going to be very careful with this because I don't want to paint this with a broad brush. It's a longer conversation. I would love to have some folks on from the community that I'm about to mention, because I it's something that is a challenge. I think I've observed this with a lot of my gay male friends, which is there's a sense of solidarity between, I think, gay men and straight women, but there can also be a sense of judgment that I have observed personally, where honestly, gay men feel like they can say whatever they want to straight women, and they don't understand that there's still misogyny in it, right? They think because we're interacting as allies, as girlfriends, so to speak, that I can say any kind of crazy.
You ain't a woman, bro. You don't know what a woman experience, man.
But even beyond not being right. a woman, but this idea, it's kind of like when you're a white person and you have a bunch of black friends, or you've grown up in a community of black people, you feel like that lends you permission to be able to say and do things that black people say and do because you're in proximity to them. Right now. And I'm saying that has been my observation. There have been a few times where I've had my gay male friends where I've had to check them, like, don't call me a bitch. I don't call you a bitch. I don't call my girlfriends bitch. Like, that's just generally not language I use. I'm not saying I have never, ever, but generally speaking, that's generally not how I engage with my girlfriends. We don't generally walk around calling each other bitch, just generally speaking. So if I don't do that with my female friends, I don't, you know what I mean? And I'm making light, but I'm saying I do think that somehow that level of familiarity sometimes causes or permits the environment where people cross boundaries, you know what I mean? And they say things that
Don Lemon could have been very much thinking that he was,
I genuinely believe that. And I'm saying that based on solely on my own experience with gay male friends, like where I have had, and again, with non-black friends who've grown up around black folks and who will say things, and I'm like, nah, sis, that language is not language you can use with me. Right, exactly. So and that is not to give him, an out, or to suggest that, that somehow diminishes the weight of what he's being accused of having said and done. But I'm saying that to say, I understand context sometimes can be a little bit different under certain circumstances. But I will say he is not, his reputation precedes him, is what I will say. So it'll be interesting to see what the findings actually are when it's all said and done.
So yeah, I think he was on leave for a second. He's back again. You know how these things do. So I got another thing.
Yeah.
Article a person I'm a fan of, John Leguizamo.
Oh yeah,
yeah. I love John Leguizamo. He's one of my favorite actors. Whatever. He has an interesting. Here's the headline: John Leguizamo doubles down on Super Mario movie boycott. Weird thing. John Leguizamo is again crying foul of the Super Mario Brothers movie, complained at the lack of diversity in the cast. The actor was in an NYC Wednesday, the same day as the new animated film hit theaters, and we got him to sound off on whether he changed his opinion from last year, namely whether he'd be watching the new adaptation of everyone's favorite video game character. As it turns out, John has a bunch of original position. Dude's definitely not catching it. Let me go. In photos, let's see. What do you say down here? He basically he says he demands Hispanic representation, that Hispanics represent 20% of the population, and he wonders why there's no Hispanic representation, even though the lead female in it she's from Argentina and has Argentinian background. He's pissed that the two leads, Chris Pratt and Charlie Day, are not of a different color. What do you think?
This is really interesting. I'm so glad you brought this topic up. I would have never brought this up. One, because I literally just saw the movie yesterday. I took my nephew, who turned 8 last week. I took him for his birthday. We had a auntie and nephew outing yesterday, but and we loved the movie, by the way.
Right.
I
heard it's hilarious.
Yeah. I will say, as someone who has not played Mario Brothers literally since I was 13 years old, I was wondering if I would get any of the references, if it was enjoyable, like it was very funny. Jack Black stole the show as Bowser. Amazing. Hilarious. So what's interesting is, I will say, when the movie first started, because again, I didn't really do any background research. I did a quick Google, and I was surprised that Chris Pratt was playing Mario and that Charlie Day was playing Luigi, only because they quite clearly right at the beginning were trying to lean into the Brooklyn accents. Right. I will say, to my surprise, Chris Pratt did not sound like himself. I was surprised that it was Chris Pratt. Like, I didn't recognize his voice at all. Right. I also had the thought, because Seth Rogen is in it. He plays Donkey Kong. Fred Armisen plays Donkey Kong's dad, and so forth and so forth. And so I remember, I didn't think Donkey this doesn't have enough color in it. It doesn't have enough color in it, but what's interesting to me is, so there are a couple things. I love John Leguizamo. I don't always agree with him about certain things. Same. One is, the irony is, he wants more Latino people in a film with characters who are of Italian descent. So that's one. That's one. That seems like a misstep. Like, if anything, if I was of the Italian community, I would say, well, back up, bruh. You should have never been playing a part in Mario Brothers. That's the first thing I thought. I was like, Bob Hoskins is not Italian. If we're not Italian. We're gonna go there. Let's go. Let's really go there. So that's one. The other thing is, as you mentioned, Anna Taylor-Joy, I think is her name. She is a young lady. She plays Princess Peach. She is a woman of Latina descent. Yeah. And that is, interestingly enough, part of the controversy that often happens. And I don't want to speak on behalf of the Latino community, but I know that there's a lot of controversy around the whitewashing of Latinos in Hollywood. This idea of, if they didn't tell you were Latina, they were Latino, you wouldn't know, right? Right. That's a whole nother thing, right? So right. I imagine from her perspective, she like, say, bruh, and this isn't the first time he's done this. A couple years ago, I think it was Oscars, he was complaining that, there was a big influx of Black nominees, and his complaint was that there were not Latino nominees, and folks were like, you miss all those Afro-Latinos, like, it wasn't the Oscars, it was the Emmys, because it was the year that When They See Us was nominated, and folks specifically called out like Jarrell Jerome. They talked about Lupita Nyong'o. They were like, there is Latino representation, they just don't look like the Latinos that look like you. So that is a common controversy that has come up in his activism. And I get it, you can't be all things to all people. He can't always speak for everybody. So I because I know how passionate he is, and he's done so much. I mean, first of all, the man is a historian. He knows so much about his own culture. That's amazing. Brilliant. So I am inclined to hear him out whenever he expresses such opinions. But on this one, I gotta say, I think he missed the boat. I feel like, again, first of all, it's based off of a video game character. The characters themselves are Italian, so I don't see what foot he. And if his thought was it could be more diverse, I continue to go back to Fred Armisen. Fred Armisen, I believe, is Argentinian as well. Like his mother, I think, is like something in Central America. He's from Central America. But all of that to say, so I feel like he needs to do a little more research on this one. Yeah, I think it was just like, and it's one of these TMZ walking down the street, say some shit real quick. Yeah. Okay, so we're getting down to the end of it. Yeah. I got some random bitching stuff. Can I do that? Random bitching things. Okay. On Easter Sunday.
Okay, let me randomly bitch on Easter Sunday.
Jamal has been resurrected as a grumpy old man.
So this is a funny thing that's happened in my life. So when I was living in Tennessee doing a show, I got a whole bunch of random texts one day. I would say no less than 15. All these texts were in reference to Mark Wahlberg being in Dallas selling a drink. And they're like, yeah, hey, your boy's in town. Your boy's in town. I'm like, do y'all think I'm about to go find Mark Wahlberg? And what do y'all think is happening? So, ladies and gentlemen, let me be real clear.
Wait, I love that your microphone is trying to cut out as you tell the
Okay,
story.
can you hear me?
Even God barely, but even God don't want you to tell his story. He was like, leave Mark Wahlberg alone.
For those who didn't hear, for some reason, everybody started texting me when Mark Wahlberg came to Dallas, as if me and Mark Wahlberg are going to have a showdown in front of some restaurant somewhere. Listen, Linda. I have no ill will towards Mark Wahlberg. I hope he has the greatest of life and sell all the alcohol. Y'all know my issues with Mark Wahlberg. Please don't at me or text me when Mark Wahlberg comes to town. I don't care quite that much. Now, for Scottie Pippen, text me, because that might actually be a physical fight.
Please stop placing me in positions to defend people who I know I shouldn't defend. Like, I don't want to defend Scotty, but I feel obligated to, because there's nobody else here to represent and defend anybody from Chicago.
You can't defend Scottie Pippen, because Scotty, first name, his name is Scotty, and that's terrible. It's I speak for all the Scots. No. I have an Uncle Scott. Nobody want to be called Scotty. It's terrible. If you accept being called Scotty, it's a problem. It's as bad as Tanner. All right, so that's a Mark Wahlberg thing. Here's another one that this is one of those you ever read a Facebook post which is real veiled and is really about something bigger? That's what this was going to be. Passive
aggressiveness when they really have something they want to say, but they want you to beg them to tell you what it is. What's wrong? Girl, call me.
So this will be exactly. This is a passive aggressive Facebook post on my part. So tax time, my birthday is on tax day, April 15th. When you receive your tax money, some people receive their tax money, y'all get your money, y'all get so happy about it and everything. That's great.
People get money back.
Yeah, people get. Some people don't.
Congratulations, y'all.
You dirty mother. But anyway, when you get your tax money back, before you spend a dime of it, what I want you to think is, do I owe anybody money?
Child.
Perhaps I should pay those people before I go on random trips to places.
I was about to say, can we back up? Not even taxes. Before you go on long vacations, before you decide that you want to go. My thing is, listen, you know my feeling, Jamal. I don't believe that because people are financially distraught that they should have to be forced to never enjoy life. I don't believe in that.
Not at all.
So when people are like, oh, they work at McDonald's, they don't deserve to go on vacation. That's bull. If anything, they deserve to go on vacation.
They need lots of vacations. Right. More vacations.
That being said, I believe very much in when you have leaned on the kindness of others, particularly when you've leaned on them financially, that before you enjoy your good time, get them people their money back.
The same energy in which you ask for the money is the same energy you should have when you're returning that money.
And honestly, it's one of the reasons why if I can't afford to just give it to you, I don't loan money out. Like legit, if I literally when I give people money, usually I will either say one of two things. I need it back on XYZ day, or give it back to me when you can. Because in my mind, it's either one, I want you to understand that I don't want you to get in the habit of asking me for money. That's usually why I give an expiration date. And two, because I want you to understand that I recognize my dad taught me this a long time ago. Don't give away anything that you can't afford to give away. You just can't. 100%. You just can't. Yeah.
I'm just trying to educate. I agree with that exactly. We're trying to educate these people. Make sure.
And when you owe folks money, don't hide from them. Like if you go hide,
bro, I got so many hiding stories.
Be respectful how you hide. And here's what I'm gonna say: don't do stuff like unfriend me on Facebook. Say dog. Like, come on, man. You and I both know what that is.
They don't want you to see. They don't want you to see the vacation pics.
That's one. Or don't go out of your way, like simple stuff. Hey, the family is getting together. You gonna avoid me for a year because I would rather you call me and say, hey, I know I owe you money. It's gonna take me longer to get it back to you than I planned. And I think that's what it is. I understand that I don't think most people are intentionally trying to get over. It's the uncomfortable, it's the awkwardness of having that conversation of, I know I owe you money, but I haven't figured out yet how I'm gonna pay you back. Say that.
Right.
Just say that.
And don't
just say that.
And don't say that when you're on vacation.
Don't call me. Come back and tell me how amazing your vacation was, and you ain't mentioned hide nor hair the money that you owe me. Now that's what'll drive me. You coming back showing me pictures from your vacation, and you ain't thought about the money you owe me.
So I got one more thing, and then I think for the culture. Unless you got more.
Let's get it.
Okay.
Oh no, I can save the rest of mine for next week.
Okay. This is one thing that I just have to ask somebody about because it's just crazy to me. Beyonce tickets. Ladies and gentlemen, I've talked to more people recently who have spent $600. So right now, the Beyonce tickets for Dallas, it's $600 to get in the building. To get in the building is $600. How much would you pay to go see? And I know you've seen Beyonce before. You did it the smart way, and you should educate people on how you.
I was just about to say, you know, I got a great Beyonce.
Your way is honestly, your way put me on game, and for me, Nicole, literally like, yo, this is how we're gonna do it. But so, I'm pretty sure you don't agree with $600 getting a bill.
Now, listen. I'm trying to imagine the artist I would want. It maybe Prince, and I mean right now reincarnated Prince. I don't mean Prince when he was alive. I mean
he literally
Prince
came back
from the
dead.
beyond. I would pay $600.
Prince came from beyond. I'm still like 600. How close can I get?
Look, I would still have to double check and make sure. Be like, what's the refund policy? Right? But no, I definitely would not pay that much. I have seen Beyonce in concert. I paid to see her in concert. I think I paid $130, and that's because I went to go see her on the Run tour in Amsterdam. I was already gonna be in Europe, and I bought tickets to Amsterdam. I had amazing seats.
Seats were. I saw the pictures. Your seats were amazing
seats. And so, for whatever reason, her show. Well, not for whatever reason. It's because.
Ticketmaster is a huge cartel that jacks up the prices.
Yo, real talk. And I say that as someone who, as a box office expert, y'all, that's what I
Ticketmaster is a piece of shit. But I
can't say that.
I'm saying it. I am saying that they didn't. I done paid them too much money. They didn't ride for me. Ticketmaster. I'm sorry.
As someone who so every time I talk about my past life work experiences, I feel like people are like, what does she used to do for a living? Because
CIA informant.
Because of course I worked very closely with Ticketmaster and Live Nation and those ticket vendors, because at the Apollo you have to have a ticket seller, right? And not just at the Apollo, any major venue, concert venue, live performance venue, you have to have and so I know the ins and outs, and there's a whole we can have a whole show, an episode about that. But that being said, Europe has a lot more regulations around ticket prices, and honestly, the audience is they're unlike Americans. They don't believe you should just be paying all your money for it and everything. They're like, yo, it's a concert, dude. We're not going broke. And so that is something that is, when we talk about supply and demand, that this is a perfect example of economics. This is a perfect economics lesson for young people who are trying to understand the laws of supply and demand. Like Beyonce can charge that much because the market will bear it out. Right. People will pay it. If people stop, because here's the thing, those ticket platforms, they're on what's called a dynamic pricing scenario. Right. So her camp will set a baseline for the ticket prices. But what happens is, as demand goes up, they'll say, oh, on Tuesday, more people were demanding tickets, so increase the prices. On Wednesday, if less people are demanding, they lower them. Right. So your ticket price could change based on when you decide to buy your ticket and how hot the market is any given moment. So you should assume that the first tickets, the reason the tickets that first come out are so high is because all you fools go out and buy them like that. Bruh. If y'all would chill out, do like me, lay back in the cut with my admission tickets. Because
just think about this. So your Beyonce, somebody spending $600 for nosebleeds. They say something like you could spend upwards of $6,000 to get towards the front, $6,000 to $8,000.
You could fly to Europe and enjoy I spent less than, I think I did Paris, London, Paris, Amsterdam for 10 days. And I did several things, including going to that concert. And I don't think I spent $5,000. I think maybe I spent between $3,000 and $4,000.
Preach. So ladies and gentlemen,
including a concert.
Yeah. Raise your game, ladies and gentlemen. Raise your game.
Yeah, if you're gonna do it, make it an experience, is my feeling about it. Make it a big deal.
So we ready to move on to For the Culture?
Yeah, let's hit it.
For the culture. 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 Do you got a For the Culture? Because I have one.
I do have a For the Culture.
You go first.
Oh, you have one? Okay.
I do.
This is gonna be super quick.
We'll do two. Yeah.
Okay, this is going to be super quick. I was going to bring it up last week, but you mentioned Swarm, and I wanted to give Swarm space to breathe. I have been watching this comedy dramedy on Hulu starring Kerry Washington and Delroy Lindo called Unprisoned, and it is based on the real life story of, I think her name is Tracy McMillan, and I apologize if I misremember her name, who is a therapist whose father, she grew up in a foster home scenario, and then eventually was raised by her father as one of his ex-girlfriends while he was in and out of prison. And dad gets out of prison and he's saying, I'm on the straight and narrow this time. I want to rebuild our relationship. So the whole show is about, can this father and daughter reconnect, rebuild their relationship in a healthier, happier way? And can dad survive on the straight and narrow, right? For after literally being a career criminal. So the show takes a very I don't want to say lighthearted, but there are so many discussions about the prison system and what happens to folks when they come out of the prison system, that it's always very depressing and doom and gloom. In this show, even though it very much deals in the reality of that, we get to see his ongoing interaction with his parole officer, the challenges that he has in securing work and getting fairness in work. But also the reality of what it is to be a child whose parent has been in and out of the penal system, throughout the course of your life. So well done, so well written. Carrie is Carrie, and she's great, but of course, the main course is Delroy Lindo.
We've said it before on the show. Delroy Lindo, if he was white, he'd be Robert De Niro. He'd be the person that you'd be like, he's a brilliant actor, been brilliant for years.
Absolutely. When I saw that he was going to be in it, because I'll be canon, I was like, we'll see. And I saw he was attached, and I was like, well, I'm definitely
all right. I'm in.
Because Delroy is in it. And without question, I think I told you the first episode, I was like, oh yeah. First of all, he is at his most charming. Like, it is easy to see how this man was a con man for so many years, because Delroy turns on the charm. He's so smart. He's very kind, but also he's every black dude, every smooth dude you ever knew in the hood. Like, he's real. He's very real. And so I've been enjoying watching it. It's very funny. It's very lighthearted.
What is it on?
It's on Hulu. It's on Hulu.
Okay.
So name of the show is Unprisoned. It's only, I think, 8 episodes. They're about 30 minutes each. So it's a very quick watch. Like, I'm halfway through it, and I'm intentionally slowing myself down because I think it might be a limited series, but it's really well done. So if you got time, go check out Unprisoned on Hulu, starring Kerry Washington and Delroy Lindo.
I'm going to check that out immediately because I have to. All right. So me, I also have something on Hulu that I watched a movie, which is usually not it depends on, I'll just say it. Rye Lane is a movie I watched. It is a romantic.
It's on my list.
Yes, it's a romantic comedy that takes place in South London. It's Black, and it is hilarious.
And it's getting rave reviews. Like, I've seen some reviews saying it's one of the best rom-coms ever. Like, literally.
It is. So the person who wrote it, I'll just read the little article. Rain Allen Miller's feature directorial debut, Rye Lane, out now on Hulu, is a firecracker of a film exploring modern day dating and heartbreak. Moore's while providing witty commentary on the borderline absurd ways in which millennials and Zoomers have latched onto social media buzzword culture. The two stars are Vivian Opara and David Johnson. Yo, this was like, it's fun, it's quick, it is very, very smart, very quirky, very real. It is, but it's so fun and fast. And the two leads are incredibly charming. Everybody in it is perfectly cast, and it's literally less than 90 minutes. I'm
so glad to hear you because it's literally quite literally, I have it in my queue, and I was like, should I watch this before I start watching these shows? Because I'm watching this in like another there's a musical romantic comedy on Hulu called Up Here that I was watching, and that one, I put that one in there. But I'm glad to hear you liked it so much, because that's really encouraging.
Me and Nicole
typically don't like rom-coms.
We were howling. I like things that it's so different, and it's a different look. I love seeing people of color. First of all, I love seeing people of color in non-stereotypical ways.
Right.
And this was just so smart, but he put it in a grittier part of London that we don't get to see. We never get to see in movies. It's dope, man. It's really, really dope. It's dope. Check it out.
Awesome. Well, those are our 2 recommendations for the culture. So we're coming back at you all. So when you hear this, I think you'll be hearing 2 episodes back to back. It just occurred to me, Jamal, we've gotten back into the flow of things, but we haven't quite done an after the show segment. So we'll pick back up our bonus content next week. Yep. So we can be on time for Easter brunch this Sunday.
I ain't trying to get my wife gonna get me if we don't get. We gotta be. We need to be ready. And
yes, we need to be walking out the door any second now. So, well, folks, thank you all so much. We hope that if you do celebrate Easter, that you have a safe, happy Easter, or have had a safe, happy Easter holiday. And of course, we're excited to be back in the mix with y'all. We got a lot coming up for y'all this spring. So, I think with that, we're gonna sign off. So, Jamal, say goodbye to the people.
Goodbye to the people.
Peace out, y'all. We'll see y'all next week.
Whatever We Want with J and K is produced by Chief Disruptor Productions, with post-production support by Lee George. To see the video version of this episode of Whatever We Want with exclusive extended content, be sure to subscribe to @Chief Disruptor Productions on YouTube. Stay up to date when we post new content by subscribing to the show on Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify, Pandora, and most podcast streaming platforms. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Chief Disruptor Productions and share your recommendations for viewer topics. See y'all next week. Peace.